So I think we have a couple more that left, and this one really shocked me because you said this was the chapter that really hit home for you. You said this was the chapter that really hit home for you in this book. So let's talk about it. Chapter 12, that alone feeling.
Well, there are lots of times where, as young men, we just feel alone. I know this type of thing has been said with the whole like, we're men, we have to be tough, we can't show feelings and stuff like that. But just feeling alone,
Mm-hmm.
like you can't talk to somebody about something, about what's happening with what's troubling you, just feeling like you don't have anybody to really care for the things like that are happening. It's really painful. And I guess when I was reading the book, like it really hit home. I was just reflecting on myself about how I do feel alone a lot of times because a lot of things that just happened, and it was like I just didn't even like the last couple weeks. I just didn't even care about school at that point. I was just like, which led to me not doing as well for those couple of weeks, which led to me getting in trouble. And because I was just out of it. I just didn't feel like I really had anything. And so this chapter, when I was reflecting back on things that had happened the last couple of weeks, it was really, really like hit home.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I guess, when I was reading into it more, it was talking about where you have to just find somebody who you can truly trust.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people out here who will say you can talk to them about anything, but
Mm-hmm.
then when you start to open up to them, it's like they just immediately are like, "Oh, nope, I didn't actually mean that. I was just saying that,"
Yeah.
and then they just immediately unfriend you or something like that because they just don't want to. They don't really care enough to listen to
Wow.
what's happening in your life. So you just got to find somebody that you can truly trust, to someone who you can just like actually let your problems like let them out
Mm-hmm.
and just let whatever is holding all your emotions back, just let it fall and spill it out. Just find that person who will really listen to you through everything, and that'll really help now with the feeling alone and things like that,
Yeah.
because no one ever wants to feel alone. It's one of the worst feelings in the world, is feeling like you don't have anybody, you have nothing, you just by yourself. Just it's on you. Everything is your fault and stuff like that.
Mm.
It's not a good feeling. So that's one of the
No.
things why this chapter really stood out to me.
Well, I wish I would have thought it. Maybe somebody can drop it in the chat for me, because this chapter really goes into feeling depressed, feeling suicidal, and I wish I had the suicide hotline number that I could drop into the chat. But if somebody who's watching could drop that number in the chat for me, I think this would be a great place to go ahead and put that, because I look at how people say, and even he says here that he cares and he has a Facebook group, and you can join his Facebook group. If you're watching this and you feel like you're all alone, you can join his Facebook group and you can connect with Robert. You can always connect with me. And I know somebody watching that is probably like, well, she don't have the time to answer her phone. Well, no, because I keep my ringer off because I get a lot of crank and spam calls. But I try to be there for people. Robert's wanting to be there for people, but there's a hotline of people that are ready and waiting to talk you through whatever it is that you're going through. And so I don't see it popping up in the chat. So if y'all will just indulge me for a second, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick search for it, because it's a national suicide hotline. And I thought they were about to get a not a 911, but like a 411 or some kind of number like that. Okay, let's see. They do have it. It's 988.
Also, this one too is
Yeah. Yeah, let me do that. 'Cause they just released this uh 988 suicide support hotline. Hold on, where'd my uh-oh. Where'd my StreamYard go? Oh, there it is. Let me pop that in here so you can, for a suicide hotline, you can dial 988. Which I thought was fantastic that they had just released that or created that number. But there's also um, this one is the old one, which I think is still monitored because 988 is brand new. Okay, I mean, I just heard that news, so let me put that on here. Okay, I didn't type that very well, but so we've got 988. If you're feeling like you need someone to talk to, you can call that number. You can text that number, and there will always be somebody there that can help you. And if you want a traditional number, that's the traditional number there for the suicide hotline, 800-273-8255. But there's avenues to get folks to help. You can go to Robert's GOAT group, right? You can go into his group. You can go to my Facebook group. You can reach out to us. You can always, anybody who subscribes to my list, I always have a number that, you can schedule time or you can just reach out. But, if I'm not available, if Robert's not available, if Philip's not available, you can contact the people there. But I remember being a teenager and feeling like nobody cared and nobody had time for me and nobody cared that nobody had time for me. Like even when I went to college, I remember they did this big thing about don't go anywhere alone, because we'd had a young lady who'd been assaulted by 6 folks walking from the parking lot. Our parking lot was like a mile or two away from where our dorms were, and she had been assaulted on the parade field. And rather than help her, people were like, well, she shouldn't have been walking across the parade field, because it was a shortcut. I mean, it was like a 2-mile triangle and she was cutting through, and because people were so upset at what happened to her and how the establishment didn't care to fix the problem, they blamed her instead of the people who did it. A group of girls got together, and one guy, I believe, and created an underground support group, which led to the eventual creation of a hotline to help people who were suffering from assault. But I remember all of that good stuff came out of this bad situation. Once the bad situation happened, they had briefed all of us, don't go walking by yourself. If you need to go walking, grab an upperclassman, go grab somebody to come with you. And I still remember how laughed at I was by the upperclassmen of my squadron when I asked somebody to come walk with me somewhere. And I'll never forget how that felt. And I'll never forget how, when I wanted to have someone to talk to, I remember trying to call my family, and it was the freshman year, so you couldn't call all the time. You got certain windows of time at the Air Force Academy that you could call. And I called, and then I got back in line so I could call again. And when I called again, it was somebody, I forget which member of my family it was, but somebody was like, look, we're trying to watch TV, stop calling us. And I couldn't go to my classmates and I couldn't go to my family, and I just felt like I had nobody. And if you feel like you've got nobody to turn to, I want you to know today that's not the case. You can always turn to these hotline numbers. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to these hotline folks, if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to me or going and joining Robert's group, if you don't feel comfortable with any of the people in your life right now, then you can always reach out to the Lord. And I've never had a situation where I've prayed to the Lord and asked him to comfort me and to help me that he hasn't shown up right on time.